I was still in bed with Marcus when my phone started buzzing. 6 texts from Jake in under a minute. Then it started ringing. I didn't answer. Marcus was asleep next to me, his arm draped over my waist like we were a real couple. Like this wasn't the most destructive thing I'd ever done. The phone kept vibrating against the nightstand. Jake never called me this early unless something was wrong with our daughter. Emma. Oh God, Emma. I grabbed the phone and stepped into Marcus's bathroom, closing the door as quietly as possible. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped it. The texts loaded one by one, each one worse than the last. I know. Don't bother lying. Emma asked why Mommy's car was at the office building all night. She saw you. We both did. I'm taking her to my mom's. Don't come home yet. Actually, don't come home at all. The air left my lungs. Emma saw me. My 7-year-old daughter saw me going into that building with Marcus. Jake must have driven by looking for me, probably worried because I said I was working late again. 3rd time this week. He brought Emma with him. She saw me. I sat down on the cold tile floor and tried to breathe. This wasn't supposed to happen like this. I was going to tell Jake eventually, on my terms, when I'd figured out what I actually wanted. Marcus had been promising me he'd leave his wife for real this time, that we could build something together. He said Jake didn't appreciate me, didn't see me the way he did. That's what I'd been telling myself anyway. The bathroom door opened. Marcus stood there in his boxers, looking annoyed. You okay? You've been in here for like 20 minutes. 20 minutes. I'd been sitting on his bathroom floor having a breakdown for 20 minutes, and he was annoyed. I have to go, I said, my voice barely working now. Babe, it's 6 in the morning. Babe. He called me babe like we were in a rom-com, not like I just destroyed my family. I pushed past him and started grabbing my clothes from his bedroom floor. My shirt from last night. My jeans, my bra hanging off his lamp, the evidence of my choices scattered around like crime scene markers. What's going on? Marcus was following me now, finally picking up that something was actually wrong. Jake knows. Emma saw us. He went quiet. Not the concerned kind of quiet. The calculating kind. Okay, he said slowly. Okay, so what does that mean for us? I looked at him then, really looked at him. This man I'd been sleeping with for 3 months. This man I'd convinced myself was my soulmate. My escape from a marriage that had gone stale. Marcus was 42, divorced, with 2 kids he saw every other weekend when it was convenient. He wore expensive cologne and took me to hotels in the next town over. He texted me during work meetings and made me feel seen in a way I thought Jake had stopped doing. But standing there in his bedroom, watching him worry about what my husband finding out meant for his situation, I saw him clearly for the first time. He wasn't worried about me. He wasn't worried about Emma. He was worried about drama. I don't know, I said, pulling my shirt on inside out and not even caring. I'd met Jake when I was 23. He was 25, working construction, saving money for his own business. We got married 2 years later in his parents' backyard because we couldn't afford a real wedding. Emma came 3 years after that. 10 years together. 10 years of building a life, a home, a family. And I'd blown it all up because Marcus made me feel pretty when he looked at me across the conference table. That's the truth nobody wants to hear. It wasn't because Jake was abusive or cruel or neglectful. It was because Marcus paid attention to me at the company holiday party and it felt good. Because my friends kept posting on social media about their exciting lives and I felt boring. Because I was 33 and scared I'd missed out on something. So when Marcus started finding excuses to stop by my desk, I let him. When he asked me to lunch, I went. When he kissed me in the parking garage after a late meeting, I kissed him back. I told myself Jake and I had grown apart. That we were more roommates than partners. That he didn't really see me anymore didn't make me feel special. I made a list in my head of all his flaws. How he left dishes in the sink. How he was always tired after work. How he'd rather watch baseball than go out on weekends. I never made a list of the good things. How he got up with Emma every single morning so I could sleep in. How he still kissed me goodbye every day even when I was being cold. How he planned a surprise trip for our anniversary even though money was tight because his business was just getting off the ground. I just focused on what I thought I was missing. And Marcus was right there ready to give it to me. The affair happened in stages, each one easier to justify than the last. First it was just talking, then texting, then meeting for coffee, then lunch, then staying late at work together, then his car, then a hotel, then his apartment. Each time I told myself it wasn't that bad yet, that I could still stop, that I was just figuring things out. My best friend Sarah knew something was up. She asked me point blank at brunch 2 weeks ago if I was cheating on Jake. I laughed and said no. She didn't look convinced. She said I seemed different, distant. She said Emma had mentioned to her daughter that mommy was working a lot. I told Sarah she was being paranoid. I told her Jake and I were fine, just busy. She stopped texting me after that. I drove home in a daze, my phone blowing up with messages I couldn't bring myself to read. Jake's mom, my sister Sarah, people were finding out. Jake was telling people. The house looked the same when I pulled into the driveway. Same blue door, same flower beds Jake had planted last spring. Same basketball hoop he'd installed for Emma even though she was still too short to really use it. But Jake's truck was gone. And when I went inside, half of Emma's room was empty. Her favorite stuffed animals, gone, her iPad, her backpack, the framed photo of the 3 of us from Disney World last year that sat on her nightstand. He'd packed her up and taken her while I was in Marcus's bed. I sat on her floor surrounded by the toys he'd left behind, the less important ones, and I finally let myself cry. Not pretty crying. The kind where you can't breathe and snot runs down your face and you sound like an animal. My phone rang. Jake, I answered. Don't, he said before I could speak. Don't apologize. Don't explain, I don't want to hear it. His voice was flat, cold. This man who'd loved me for 10 years, who'd held my hand through childbirth, who'd cried when we got married, sounded like he was talking to a stranger. Jake, please. Emma asked me why you were hugging that man. She asked me if you had a new friend from work. She's 7, Jess. 7. And she had to see her mom sneaking around like that. I never meant for her to. You never meant for any of this. His voice cracked. You never meant to fuck some guy from your office. You never meant to lie to me for months. You never meant to destroy our family. I couldn't answer. There was no answer. I filed for divorce this morning, he said. My lawyer will be in touch. I'm going for full custody. You can't watch me. He hung up. I tried calling back, straight to voicemail. I texted. The messages showed delivered but not read. He'd blocked me. I called his mom. She picked up on the first ring. You have some nerve, she said. Her voice was shaking with rage. Emma is crying herself to sleep asking what she did wrong. A child thinks her mother doesn't love her anymore because you couldn't keep your legs closed. That's not. Stay away from my son. Stay away from my granddaughter until you figure out how to be a decent human being. She hung up. I tried my own mom. She didn't answer, but she texted me 10 minutes later. Your father and I are very disappointed. We're gonna stay out of this. Don't put us in the middle. My sister sent one text. How could you? Sarah didn't respond at all. I was alone in a house that wasn't mine anymore, holding a phone full of people who wanted nothing to do with me. I texted Marcus. Jake filed for divorce. He took Emma. He responded 3 hours later. That's rough. My ex is being crazy today, so I can't really talk. Maybe we should cool things off for a bit until this blows over. Until this blows over. Like my marriage ending was a thunderstorm. Like my daughter losing her family was weather. I didn't respond. The next few days were a blur. Jake's lawyer contacted me. I had to move out of the house. He was claiming infidelity and emotional abandonment. He had evidence. Screenshots of texts between Marcus and me that he'd found on the phone bill. Timestamps. A sworn statement from a neighbor who'd seen me leaving at odd hours. He'd been building a case. I got a lawyer. A cheap one because I couldn't afford better. She looked at the evidence Jake had and got very quiet. Then she asked me if there was any chance of reconciliation. I said I didn't think so. She said I should prepare for limited custody at best. Even with kids involved, I asked. Especially with kids involved. Courts don't look kindly on parents who abandon their children for affairs. And Jake documented everything. Every lie you told Emma about where you were. Every dinner you missed. Every time you chose to be with your affair partner instead of your daughter. When she said it like that, I heard it. Really heard it. I hadn't just betrayed Jake. I'd abandoned Emma. All those nights I said I was working late but I was with Marcus. The weekend I told Emma I had a work conference but really I was at Marcus's place while his kids were at their mom's. The school play I missed because Marcus and I were at a hotel 2 towns over. I'd chosen Marcus over my daughter. Over and over again. And now she was gone. The custody hearing was 4 months after Jake found out. 4 months of living in a studio apartment my parents helped me pay for because I couldn't afford rent on my own. 4 months of supervised visitation with Emma every other Saturday for 2 hours at a community center. She barely talked to me during those visits, just sat coloring or playing with toys, answering my questions with one-word responses. How's school? Fine. Did you have fun at Grandma's birthday? Yeah. I miss you, baby. Silence. The social worker supervising us would give me sympathetic looks, but I didn't want sympathy. I wanted my daughter back. I wanted to undo every choice that led me here. In court, Jake's lawyer destroyed me. They had everything. The texts, the hotel receipts I'd expensed to the company cards. Marcus's idea. He said it was fine. It wasn't fine. I got fired for it 3 weeks after Jake left. Character witnesses who talked about how devoted Jake was as a father, how he'd taken on extra work to provide for us, how he'd always put Emma first. Then they asked about me. My lawyer tried. She really did. But what could she say? I'd admitted to the affair. I'd lied repeatedly. I'd missed important moments in Emma's life. The best she could do was argue that I'd made mistakes, but I loved my daughter and deserved a chance to rebuild our relationship. The judge didn't seem impressed. Jake's lawyer called Sarah to the stand, my former best friend. She wouldn't look at me. She testified that I'd become increasingly distant over the past year, that I'd lied to her about the affair when she'd asked directly, that Emma had expressed confusion to Sarah's daughter about why I was never home anymore. Did the defendant seem remorseful when you confronted her? The lawyer asked. No, Sarah said quietly. She seemed annoyed that I'd questioned her. That was true. I had been annoyed. I'd thought Sarah was judging me, didn't understand that my marriage was complicated, that I deserved happiness too. I'd been so convinced I was the victim in my own story. The judge awarded Jake primary custody. I got supervised visitation twice a month until I could prove I'd undergone counseling and established stable housing and employment. No overnights, no holidays, no summers. Emma would grow up in Jake's house with Jake's family, building a life I wasn't part of. I tried to talk to Jake after the hearing. He walked past me like I wasn't there. His mom blocked me physically, standing between us. You've done enough, she said. Marcus never showed up to support me, not once. He'd send a text a week after everything exploded saying we should take space to figure things out. I found out through a mutual coworker that he'd gotten back together with his ex-wife a month later. Apparently the affair with me had made him realize what he'd lost. I was the wake-up call for his marriage. I destroyed mine so he could fix his. Work was impossible to find. I'd been fired from my job for expense fraud and inappropriate workplace conduct. The reference checks always came back cold. Nobody wanted to hire the woman who'd torpedoed her family and stolen from her company for an affair. I ended up working retail. Folding clothes at a department store for minimum wage. I saw people from my old life, sometimes former friends, acquaintances. They pretended not to recognize me. Or worse, they recognized me and turned away. The loneliness was physical. Like a weight sitting on my chest every morning when I woke up. I'd lie in my studio apartment staring at the ceiling, thinking about how different things could have been if I'd just gone home that first night Marcus kissed me. If I'd told Jake the truth. If I'd chosen my family over my ego. But I didn't, and now I was here. Emma's 8th birthday came and went. I wasn't invited. I sent a present to Jake's house. He returned it unopened. I tried to at least see her during my scheduled visitation that week, but she had the flu and Jake canceled. He was within his rights. The custody agreement said he could cancel for illness. I spent her birthday alone in my apartment, eating grocery store cake and looking at old photos on my phone. Emma as a baby. Emma's first day of school. Emma and Jake at the park. I wasn't in many of them because I was always the one taking the pictures, or because I wasn't there at all. My parents helped financially, but emotionally they'd checked out. My mom told me on the phone one night that she didn't know how to talk to me anymore, that she'd raised me better than this, that watching me throw away my family for some fling had broken something between us. I just don't understand, she said, and I heard the years of disappointment in her voice. You had everything, a man who loved you, a beautiful daughter, a nice home, and you risked it all for what? Excitement, attention. I don't know, I said, because that was the truth. I didn't know anymore. It had all made sense at the time in the middle of it. Marcus made me feel alive, special, seen, but that feeling lasted 3 months and the consequences would last forever. I hope it was worth it, my mom said before hanging up. She didn't call back for 6 weeks. The worst part wasn't the loneliness or the financial struggle or the shame. It was the moments I'd forget. I'd be at work or walking to my car and I'd think, I should pick up milk for Emma's cereal, or, I need to remember to sign that permission slip. Then I'd remember. Emma wasn't home, there was no home, she was growing up without me, building memories I wasn't part of, learning to live her life around the hole where I used to be. I ran into Jake once, 8 months after the divorce was finalized. He was at the grocery store with Emma. She'd grown, her hair was longer. She was wearing a shirt I'd never seen, probably one Jake's mom bought her. I froze in the aisle, gripping my basket. Emma saw me first. Her face did something complicated, a flash of recognition and then something else. Not quite fear, more like discomfort. Daddy? She said quietly, tugging his hand. Jake looked up, saw me. His expression didn't change. He just put his hand on Emma's shoulder and steered her toward a different aisle. I stood there like an idiot, tears running down my face in the middle of the frozen food section, watching my daughter walk away from me. A woman I vaguely recognized from Emma's old school saw me crying. She didn't ask if I was okay, she just grabbed her groceries and left the aisle quickly like I was contagious. Maybe I was. Therapy helped some. My therapist was patient and unjudgmental, which somehow made it worse. I wanted someone to yell at me, to tell me I was a terrible person. Instead she asked questions. What were you hoping to find with Marcus? Why do you think you prioritized that relationship over your family? What does forgiveness look like to you? I didn't have good answers. I'd been selfish. I'd wanted to feel special. I'd convinced myself I deserved more than what I had. I'd believed Marcus when he said we had something real, even though I knew he was lying to his wife the same way I was lying to Jake. I'd gambled everything on a fantasy and lost. Do you think you'll ever forgive yourself? My therapist asked one session. I don't know if I should, I said. She didn't argue. The supervised visitations continued. Twice a month, 2 hours each time. Emma was polite now, distant but polite. She'd answer questions about school, tell me basic facts about her life, but she never asked me anything. Never wanted to show me her drawings or tell me secrets or ask me to play. I was a stranger she was obligated to spend time with. Once, I tried to hug her goodbye and she went stiff in my arms, just stood there not hugging back, waiting for it to be over. The social worker saw my face after. It takes time, she said gently. How much time? I asked. She didn't answer. We both knew. Maybe forever, maybe never. I stopped checking social media after I saw Jake had gotten engaged. A woman named Rachel. She was a teacher at Emma's school. Pretty with kind eyes. Emma was in the engagement photo standing between them, all three of them smiling. My daughter had a new family, one I wasn't part of. I should have been happy she was happy. That's what a good mother would feel. But I wasn't a good mother. A good mother wouldn't have done what I did. So instead I felt hollowed out, like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left just the shell. Marcus tried to reach out once about a year after everything fell apart. A Facebook message. Hey, I heard about the custody thing. That sucks. Hope you're doing okay. I blocked him without responding. My lawyer told me I could petition for increased custody once I'd completed a year of counseling and maintained steady employment and housing. She said the judge might be willing to reconsider. But even if I got more time with Emma, even if I did everything right from here on out, I couldn't undo what I'd broken. I couldn't give her back the year I'd missed. Couldn't erase the memory of her mother choosing a stranger over her family. Couldn't make her trust me again. I see them sometimes, Jake and Emma and Rachel. At the park, at the grocery store, living the life I was supposed to have. Emma calls Rachel by her first name, but I've heard her slip once and say, Mom. Rachel corrected her gently. I'm Rachel, sweetie. Your mom is your mom. But Emma's mom is barely in her life. Emma's mom gave up that title when she climbed into Marcus's car and didn't look back. I have a photo on my phone, one of the last good ones. The three of us at the beach 2 summers ago. Emma is laughing. Jake has his arm around me, and I'm smiling at the camera like I have everything I could ever want. I did have everything, and I destroyed it because I thought I deserved more. People ask me sometimes, other people in therapy groups or acquaintances who don't know the full story, if I regret it, if I wish I could go back. Yes, every second of every day. I'd give anything to go back to that first moment, when Marcus looked at me across the conference table and choose to look away. To remember what I had instead of chasing what I thought I was missing. But I can't go back. None of us can. So instead I work my retail job and go to my therapy appointments and see my daughter twice a month, in a supervised room while she counts down the minutes until she can leave. I live in a studio apartment with furniture from IKEA and eat dinner alone every night. I watch Jake build a new life with a woman who knows how to appreciate what she has. And I know with absolute certainty that I did this to myself. Emma turned 9 last month. Jake let me send a present this time. A art set she'd mentioned wanting during one of our visits. She sent a thank you card. Just 2 words, thanks Jessica. Not mom, not even mother. Jessica. Like I'm just someone she used to know. I keep that card in my wallet. A reminder of what it costs when you betray the people who love you. When you choose momentary validation over permanent bonds. When you convince yourself the grass is greener and never stop to water your own lawn. The affair lasted 3 months. The consequences will last the rest of my life. And somewhere, Marcus is home with his family, probably not thinking about me at all. While I'm here alone, finally understanding exactly what I traded and what I lost. My therapist asked me last week what I'd say to someone thinking about having an affair. Someone standing where I stood 2 years ago at the beginning, when it still feels exciting and harmless and justified. I'd tell them that momentary feeling of being wanted isn't worth it. That excitement fades. That the person you're sneaking around with won't be there when everything falls apart. That your kids will remember. That your spouse will leave. That your friends will judge you. That you'll lose everything you built for something that won't last. I'd tell them you can't cheat your way to happiness. You can only cheat yourself out of everything that matters, but mostly I'd tell them to look at their family, really look, and ask if they're willing to never see that again. Because that's what's on the table. Not just divorce. Not just awkwardness. Complete loss. Total destruction. A life where you watch your daughter grow up in photos posted by your ex-husband's new wife. That's the price, and I paid it, and I'd give anything to have made a different choice. But I can't, and now this is forever. This is the life I chose when I thought I was choosing happiness. This is what's left when you burn down everything that mattered for something that didn't.